Construction documentation, that phase.
The fun part.
Yeah.
I actually love construction documents. I mean, like, it's a puzzle. You know, the more information you have time and energy to put into them, the better you're going to be on the other side. I love notes. You know, my construction sets probably have more notes than they do actually drawn details, because there's a lot of power in what you just write down in a set of construction documents. Project manuals are kind of, you know, I love those as well, you know, all the specifications that are involved. But generally, when we ramp up to CDs, that's when we need to get stuff done, and we need to get it done quickly, and that's when the team will generally balloon from 3 people to 5 people, and we bring in a number of support staff in order to help us get things done effectively. Yes, it gets things done quickly to have a big team, but it also puts more stress on the 3 people that were already, you know, kind of the heart and soul of the project, because it becomes our job to make sure that everyone is doing what's right for the project. Because, you know, the more new people you bring onto a team, the bigger the challenge it is to make sure they're doing things per client expectation. But I love construction documents. I think just the way, you know, I always think of it in terms of like vellum and layers, and, you know, every sheet has an additional layer of information. And I can honestly say, I think in the past, I don't know, past year or so, it's like every project I've worked on has been like that thick in terms of the actual construction documents. And I kind of miss the days when they were only like 10 or 11 sheets, you know, but it can still be 10 or 11 sheets and hold just as much information. But
do you do a lot of drawings yourself, or do you?
We do. I think everyone with the exclusion of like the project manager, generally participates in construction documentation, and I think it's important. I think even project managers should still do it, because if you're budgeting other people's time, it's important that you, every once in a while, you don't have to do it all the time, but I still think it's important that you continue to, you know, do reflected ceiling plans and do floor plans and know how much time things take. Because I think when you stop doing that stuff and you have all these young bucks coming out of school that, you know Revit like the back of their hand and, you know, all that good stuff, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not taking just as much time, you know. You still need to, as a senior person, a senior designer person, I think you still need to, you know, do all of those things yourself and really get a feel for how much time it takes to do it well.
You have to have that realistic expectation.
Yeah, well, and I think software companies really, they don't do us a service by saying, you know, if you use Revit, you're gonna put your construction documentation together faster. Well, that's true, but it's gonna be crap. You know, it's because the more times you spend, you know, really involved in putting those documents together, the better the project's going to be. You know, if things are happening in the background all the time and you're not doing it yourself, I think that's a huge opportunity for mistakes and uncoordinated aspects of a project. You know, I think, you know, I really miss, you know, when I was in school, you know, there was a huge emphasis on the hand and renderings and, you know, kind of doing everything the old way. And I think there's a big connection that comes with that. You know, when you write something, it goes to your brain. When you type something, it's like, it's kind of there, but it's not really there. And I think construction documents are the same way. It's like you have to spend time with them, you know, and they're never perfect. You know, my boss always likes to say there's no such thing as a perfect set of CDs, and I think she's 100% correct. But I always tell her too, there's no reason that we shouldn't try to be perfect. You know, because I think that's our job, is to try to be as close to perfection as we possibly can. If we just accept the fact that, you know, there is no such thing as a perfect set of CDs, then I think it kind of, you know, it makes it easy to go home at 5 o'clock every day because it's okay, it'll figure itself out. You know, I think that's where I differ a little bit than some of the people I work with at times, is that I kind of take all those details on personally, and I find it my responsibility to make sure that I've done it to the absolute best of my ability. And that goes for things that happen automatically. You know, even when our CAD program puts a schedule together automatically, I'll still go through and you know, check every single little thing, because you just never know. I mean, sometimes you don't even know you're putting in resilient base, and next thing you know, you've got resilient base in a conference room that's got a leather wall. You know, so you've just got to double check and triple check yourself on every aspect.
And so really, the perfection of the construction documents or drawings are really about preventing accidents or mistakes later.
Correct.
And the more perfect they are, the easier the process will be as it moves forward.
Yep.
And so it's a real critical phase to be very detail-oriented.
Especially if you're going to do construction administration. I think it's invaluable if you're doing CA to be the person doing the CDs, because you need to see why things happen in the field. You know, and that's a good lesson too for support staff. You know, a lot of times support staff, being interior designers that are, you know, new hires or what have you, they'll be brought in to help us with the CD portion, but they'll never get to see how the mistakes they made manifested themselves in the field.
And then you go, oh my gosh, what?
Yeah, but you never do it again.
I could have prevented that.
Yeah, you never do it again. If you see it happen, you know, and you see what repercussions and how much money it takes to correct something, you know, that makes an impression, and you'll never do it. And instead, you'll just keep getting better at it, because now you know what your subcontractors are going to experience in the field.
And what questions they have.
Exactly.
That you haven't put in enough detail to be able to help them get their job done quickly.
I think CDs, like, you know, I keep going back to this time aspect, but people rush so much, and what they generally will do is there's a set of standard details that you copy and paste on every single job. What I would encourage, you know, not just people I work with to do, but anyone in the interior design industry, is when you find yourself taking a section of millwork and copying and pasting it from one job to the next, really think about, is this the best thing for this particular client that I'm working on right now? Do they need drawers? Do they need, you know, do they need more than one shelf in that piece of millwork? Is there any type of, you know, cool reveal detail we can do on the face of that millwork to make it more unique and different? It's a pitfall, you know, and I find a lot of times that people, you know, I work with, and I've seen this in other drawings as well, that they will copy and paste and not even think about the finish information that goes along with it. So all of a sudden and hopefully you'll catch it in your shop drawings, you know. But if somebody else is doing the shop drawings and you were the one that only knows, you know, that knows which laminates go where, that may be missed altogether, and the thing could end up in the field with some laminate that should have been on a job you did 4 years ago, you know. It's anyone's guess. So it's.
Can you talk or define shop drawing?
A shop drawing, it generally happens in CA, and it's construction administration. It's kind of the last check between us and the contractor as to what the intent of the drawings are. I always think of construction documents as being design intent. It's not to say that how we are telling them to detail things is how they absolutely have to do it. It's our recommendation, but it's ultimately up to the millworker who's putting his or her brand on the product to decide if that's the way they want to do it. If they want to do it that way, fine. They can just resubmit our drawing back as a shop drawing, and we'll review it and sign off on it. The millwork we worked with on this particular project, there's so much millwork that they actually redrew every single detail that we sent them, which is great, because, you know, we may not show every little wood support, you know, in a veneer cavity, you know, but they're going to draw every single screw, every single piece of blocking, and I think it's, you know, it's good for us as designers to look at that level of expertise and kind of take details, take some hints from that and use it in on our own construction documentation. I kind of wish we had more time to develop them to that level. It would be great. I always think of the powers of 10, and that's really essentially what construction documents are. It's like, the floor plan, you're looking at the earth from, the moon, and then when you get into the details, you're actually like sitting on that picnic blanket in Central Park. It's like you're just zooming in, one sheet after another. And then the subcontractors, they take it even further than that. So that's generally where the shop drawings come into play.
And that's how their brains think.
Mm-hmm.
And they need that level of detail for them to be able to take what's in their brain and what they're thinking they're going to be doing. They need that.
And I think it's part of what I figured out with good detailing as part of construction documentation is that it helps build relationships with subcontractors. If it's important to your subcontractor and he sees that you've put a lot of time into detailing a certain aspect of a job, he's going to spend a lot of time thinking about that aspect of the job, So again, it goes back to enthusiasm. Mm-hmm. And enthusiasm comes across not just in presentation, it can come across in documentation as well. If you're overzealous in terms of how you want a reception desk done, then the person that builds that desk is going to know, there's a really critical person on the other side that's going to be looking at every aspect of this. And I think it helps build a relationship, between you and the people that actually build the product in the end. And that's really the most rewarding part, I think, is like having a job that your mill worker is proud of, not just a job that your millwork delivered as per your drawings, but something that at the end of the day, they walk through and they know that they're just as much a partner in this as, you were.
And they also want to take pictures in their portfolio as well, because they're like, we did that.
Exactly.
We did it well.
Yeah, I mean, the contractor for this job, he already put out a project case sheet, and I got a little frustrated because we haven't taken any professional shots yet, and they just came through with a point and shoot and kind of took pictures, and I was like, that's not the angle that I would have done for that. And part of me was a little upset about it, but the other part of me is like, well, I'm really thrilled that they're excited about the job and they're already trying to promote it and get more work because of it. Mm-hmm. So,
well, and when you find somebody that cares, it shows caring for the client.
Well, and then you use those people again. Right. It's like I've used the same mill worker on the past two jobs that I've worked on, mainly because he does great work, and he at the end of the day, he will sit here and, putty every little screw hole until we're 100% happy with it. But he wants it to be perfect, and there's, I don't know, 20, 30 mill workers in this town, and I think I've worked with all of them at some point, and they all have their own positive attributes, but there are some people that do different levels of finish just better than others. Mm-hmm. And that helps us. That's a service back to our clients at the end of the day if we can say, I want to use so-and-so because they're the best in the industry, and really mean it, not just because you went out to drinks with them, 2 nights before, but, really through experience know that they are the best subcontractor for whatever it is you're proposing.
Well, and then there's again a trust level. Mm-hmm. The same trust that your client has for you, you pass it on, or it's reciprocated in some way where you know that if you develop these drawings, the quality of product you can represent to your client.
Exactly.
And you need to be able to trust that person and know I don't have to follow that person. I don't have to stay up nights about that.
Yep.
I can stay up with other things.
Well, and I always say the interior designer is the maestro at the middle of the 3-ring circus. And the mill worker is very much part of that 3-ring circus. Yeah, you're in the middle and you're orchestrating all of these things happening. But you kind of select who enters that circus with you. And the more picky you can be, the better the project is going to be and the most value your client's going to get at the end of the day. So.